Hi, I'm Rowan, and if you ever walk into your childhood home and feel like a stranger in someone else's drama, yeah, I've been there. The day it happened, I didn't even want to come home. It was supposed to be a quick stop, drop off some things for Dad, check on him after his minor surgery, maybe stay the night if he needed help getting around. But the moment I stepped inside the house, I felt it, that tightness in the air, like I'd interrupted something. I barely had time to take off my shoes when Sandra, the woman my father married 5 years after my mother passed, stood in the hallway, arms crossed, mouth thin. She wasn't a screamer. She was worse. She smiled when she wanted to cut you. "Where is it?" she asked, like we'd been mid-argument for hours. I blinked. "Where is what?" "My purse, my cash. Gone," she said sharply, stepping closer, voice rising just enough to draw attention, but still soft enough to make me sound crazy if I got loud in return. "I haven't even been upstairs." "Oh, come on, Rowan," another voice chimed in. From the top of the staircase, Emily, Sandra's daughter, my stepsister. Though I never used the word out loud. She wore her usual faux casual confidence. A silky robe that probably cost more than my car. Hair pulled up like she just happened to be stunning by accident. "I saw you, hovering around her room when I came down for coffee. Don't pretend you weren't there." "I dropped off Dad's meds in his drawer, that's all." "Convenient," Emily replied, shrugging like the whole situation amused her. "She comes back after how long? And suddenly we're missing things?" "I'm not doing this," I muttered, walking toward the living room, hoping Dad was awake, hoping someone in this house still knew who I was. But Sandra followed. "If you didn't take it, what's in your bag?" I froze. It wasn't the question. It was the way she asked it. The cool confidence of someone who already had an answer in mind and just wanted to drag the scene out long enough to humiliate me. I turned. "You want to go through my things now?" Sandra smiled, falsely sweet. "If there's nothing to hide, then why not?" Dad had always hated conflict, especially after the stroke. He stayed quiet more often, let Sandra handle things. She always said it like a joke, but it wasn't. Now, he stood in the hallway looking smaller than I remembered, his robe sagging, his face confused. "What's going on?" he asked. "She took it," Emily said instantly, too fast. "Mom's cash, her bag's right there." Dad turned to me. "Rowan? And this is the part I didn't expect. Not Sandra's accusation, not Emily's performance, but his hesitation. Like somewhere in his mind, the version of me who would steal from his wife made more sense than the version who showed up with soup and medicine and a bottle of his favorite bourbon. "I didn't take anything," I said quietly. "You really think I would?" He looked down at his hands. Then he said the words that rearranged something in me. "Maybe it's just not a good time for you to stay here right now." No yelling, no explosion, just that sentence, and silence. I packed my bag without speaking. Sandra watched like she was proud of herself. Emily leaned against the doorway, sipping green juice, scrolling her phone like I wasn't even real. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't slam the door. I walked out with my head up, my hands steady. And I left behind more than just my toothbrush. I left behind a home I no longer belonged to. But here's the thing. What they didn't know, what they never saw coming, was that I had already started unraveling the lie. They thought they played me. But the truth? They gave me a reason to come back. If you've ever been blamed for something you didn't do by people who should have known better, you already know how this feels. 3 days after I left the house, a cardboard box arrived at my apartment. No note, no name. Just a return address from my father's street, but not the house number. Inside was an old photo album, brown leather, cracked at the spine. I recognized it instantly. It had been my mother's. I hadn't seen it in years. I thought Sandra threw it away. Apparently, she just buried it. I sat on the floor and flipped it open. My fingers weren't shaking, but something in my chest was. The first photo was my 5th grade spelling bee. I stood in the center holding a certificate, grinning with 2 front teeth missing. My dad on one side, my mom on the other. It looked like a family. It used to be one. I kept turning pages, school recitals, beach trips, birthday cakes, but halfway through the album, something shifted. Suddenly, Emily appeared. At first, just in the background, then more prominent, Eventually, the photos centered around her, and I disappeared, like a ghost fading frame by frame. By the last page, it was a holiday photo in front of the fireplace. Sandra, Emily, Dad, no me, not even a mention. That was the first time I cried. Not loud, not messy, just quiet tears that blurred the edges of the people who had erased me. I called someone I hadn't spoken to in months. "Rowan?" A voice answered. Female, soft, confused. "Hey, Mrs. Langford," I said, exhaling. "You used to clean for my dad's house, right? Years ago?" There was a pause. "I did, until Sandra let me go. Why?" "I just have a question," I said carefully. "Back when you were there, did you ever see anything strange? Like someone hiding things? Setting someone up?" She didn't even hesitate. "You mean the cash in the shoebox under Emily's bed?" I blinked. "Excuse me?" "She used to move money out of Sandra's wallet and stash it. I assumed Sandra knew. I was told not to say anything." I felt like I'd swallowed ice. "Did my dad know?" I asked, dreading the answer. Mrs. Langford gave a long sigh. "Your dad was sweet, kind, but Sandra ran that house. And Emily? She knew exactly how to keep her halo straight when he walked in." There it was, the confirmation I hadn't even known I needed. That night, I sat on my couch and opened the second box that had come with the album. This one had my name written in Sandra's handwriting, sharp and deliberate. Inside were 3 things: a folded scarf that still smelled faintly like lavender, my mom's scent; a utility bill from 6 months ago with my name forged at the bottom; a flash drive. I stared at it, no explanation, no clue what it was, but I plugged it in. There were 3 video clips, each just under a minute, low-quality footage from what looked like a hidden camera, angled slightly upward, catching only half the room. I recognized Emily's bedroom. In the first, she's clearly sliding cash into an envelope, then tucking the envelope under the mattress. Sandra walks in. Emily says, "She'll come by later, just act surprised." In the second, Sandra is rehearsing a speech. "We just want what's best for the family, Rowan. You can't keep showing up like this. It's unsettling." Emily snorts, mimicking my voice behind her back. The third clip is Sandra on the phone. "She doesn't have anyone else. No siblings, no real family. We just need Greg to sign the update before she catches on." That one made my blood run cold. Because it wasn't just about lies. It wasn't just about stealing. It was about rewriting my entire existence, paper by paper, word by word. I called a friend of mine from college, Jonah. He was the one person I trusted with this. He answered in 2 rings. "Rowan, it's been a minute." "I need your help," I said, "and I need it quiet." His voice dropped. "Say less. Where are we starting?" I told him everything. The fake bill, the forged signature, the footage, the erasure. He didn't ask if I was sure. He didn't ask if I was being dramatic. He just said, "We're going to need a paper trail, something undeniable, because if we go at them half-ready, they'll spin it. They always do." I exhaled. "Then let's get to work. Sometimes the people closest to you aren't trying to hurt you out of malice. Sometimes it's calculation. Because when someone benefits from your silence, your absence becomes the most convenient version of you." So I decided I wouldn't stay quiet anymore. Ever had a truth you couldn't prove, until one small detail cracked the whole thing open? The first thing Jonah said when he saw the forged utility bill was, "They didn't even try to hide it." He was right. The handwriting looked close to mine, close enough if you didn't look too hard, but not close enough for a notary or a court clerk or anyone trained to care about the details. Jonah tilted the paper under the light. "They used a ballpoint. You always sign in fine-tip black." I raised an eyebrow. "That's what you noticed?" He gave me a look. "You color-code your calendar and label your snack containers. I notice things." That made me smile. For a second, until the weight of why we were here came crashing back down. He spread out the papers on his kitchen counter. Bills, insurance forms, letters from the estate attorney. "Okay. Best case, this is an attempted financial takeover. Worst case." He paused. "This goes deeper than we thought." I exhaled. "You mean, like, guardianship deeper?" He nodded. "You said your dad's memory hasn't been great, right?" "Right. Since the stroke, he has moments where he's fuzzy, especially mornings. Names, dates. He doesn't always track time. Jonah tapped the signature line on a medical directive form. Then this? This might be them setting up to declare him legally incompetent. I froze. That would make Sandra his legal conservator, he continued, which means she'd get access to everything, and once he passes, unless a will says otherwise. She and Emily get it all. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. We didn't say much for the next half hour. We sat across from each other in his cramped apartment, him sorting through forms, me reliving every conversation I ever had with my dad in the last year, wondering how many of them were filtered through Sandra's control. I used to think she was just a little overbearing, I said finally, like one of those overcompensating new wives. But this was methodical. She didn't just want a place in his life, Jonah said. She wanted to erase yours. The next morning, I called the county office and requested a copy of the notarial records from 2 legal forms Sandra claimed Dad had signed the previous fall. I told them I was a family member checking for clarity. They said it would take 48 hours. 48 hours felt like a decade. In the meantime, I called the estate lawyer. His name was Glenn Ryerson. We'd met once, years ago, when Mom passed. He was the one who helped with probate. I wasn't sure he'd even remember me. But when I said my name, he sighed. Rowan, I wondered when you'd call. That froze me. You've heard things? He hesitated. Legally, I can't disclose client conversations unless there's been a formal complaint or evidence of coercion. But let's just say some of the recent documents I've received from your father's household didn't feel like his words. My heart hammered in my chest. Are you saying he's not the one submitting them? I'm saying, Glenn said slowly, that people forget how distinctive a voice can be. Your father writes short sentences, to the point, clean. But these new directives, full of legal padding, too polished. I leaned forward, gripping the phone. Could you send me a list of what's been updated? I'll send you what I can, he said carefully. You didn't hear that from me. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept replaying Dad's last words to me. Maybe it's not a good time for you to stay here right now. What if they weren't really his words at all? What if everything I blamed him for, every silence, every absence, was part of a system Sandra had quietly built around him, a web where he wasn't neglectful. He was just trapped. The next day, the notary documents came back. Jonah and I sat in his car in the county office parking lot, staring at the scan. There were 2 forms, a financial authorization and a medical release. Both were signed, both were witnessed, and both had a signature line for Rowan Claire Mason, except I'd never seen them before in my life. You were made co-signer on the trust disbursement, Jonah said, pointing at one section. And then, 3 months later, your signature disappears from the updated version. My throat went dry. So they added me, then erased me. Yeah, Jonah said. But this first one, this version with your name, means something. What? It means you were originally part of the estate distribution. And someone went through the trouble of getting that changed. Which means it wasn't just about lying, I said. It was about locking me out completely. Later that night, I sat alone with the photo album again. I flipped back to that last page, the one where I'd been cropped out, and I noticed something new. The picture frame on the mantel, there was a reflection, barely visible, in the glass. A shape. A figure, standing near the window. Me. I had been there, just not where they wanted me. It's a strange thing to be erased while still breathing. To be the living ghost of your own family. But ghosts remember, and I was done haunting quietly. The thing about the truth is that it doesn't shout. It waits. In silence. In margins. In the corners of paperwork people forget to double-check. And the truth had been waiting for me. Jonah's phone buzzed just after midnight. We were sitting on the floor of his living room, takeout boxes scattered, laptop open between us. He blinked at the screen. It's Glenn. I leaned in. Jonah read aloud. You need to see the original will. Meet me tomorrow, off the record. Glenn's office was tucked into a business park that smelled like old carpet and waiting rooms. The kind of place you wouldn't look twice at. He greeted us at the door, then locked it behind us. That alone told me everything I needed to know. I'm risking a lot by showing you this, he said, pulling out a thick folder and placing it on the desk. But your mother was my client before your father. I remember how she protected you. She wanted her words to matter. He opened the file. Inside were 2 wills. One from 15 years ago, my mother's, and one from 8 years ago, my father's. Your mother left everything to your father under one condition, Glenn said, that her portion of the estate would be reserved in trust until you turned 30, unless otherwise overridden by you. I swallowed. So that part should have stayed mine? Glenn nodded. And it did, until a year ago, when I received an amendment. He slid the page forward. It was clean, neatly typed, signed and notarized. Except it wasn't my father's signature. Not really. Glenn tapped it gently. Compare this to the others. He flipped back through pages. Letters, declarations, insurance forms, all signed by my father. They didn't match. Not exactly. Not even close. This is a copy of your dad's signature, Jonah said quietly. It's not his hand. Glenn didn't look surprised. I had my doubts, but I've been doing this too long to make accusations without proof. And now? I asked. Glenn looked at me. Now you have options. That night I stood in the middle of my tiny apartment, surrounded by evidence of my own erasure. The forged documents, the rewritten directives, the footage of Sandra and Emily laughing while planning how to frame me. And now this. The will that was supposed to protect me, gutted like it meant nothing. But the worst part wasn't the documents. It was realizing how easily I'd accepted being cut out. I didn't fight when they pushed me out of the house. I didn't question it when Dad went quiet. I just disappeared. Because part of me believed I didn't matter enough to stay. The next morning, I made a decision. I'm going back to the house, I told Jonah. His eyes snapped up. Are you sure? I don't want confrontation, I said. I want clarity. I want to look my father in the eye and see if he even knows what he signed. Jonah nodded slowly. I'll wait outside. When I pulled up to the house, it looked the same. That was almost the most jarring part. The shutters still crooked, the same hummingbird feeder, the place where my life cracked open, and no one else noticed. I knocked. Sandra opened the door, wearing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Well, well, she said, voice light. Look who came back. I want to see my dad. She hesitated, then stepped aside. He's resting, but if you insist. I walked in. The house smelled like lemon polish and something faintly sour underneath. Emily appeared in the hallway, fake surprise written all over her face. Oh, you're not in jail? I ignored her. Dad was in the den, half dozing in his chair, blanket over his lap, his glasses slipping down his nose. He looked up as I entered, blinking like I was a memory half forgotten. Rowan? Hey, Dad. His eyes softened. I thought you were angry. I was, I said. But now I just want to ask you something. He sat up straighter. Do you remember signing a new will last year? He frowned. Sandra said I needed to. Something about taxes. Did you read it? His silence answered everything. Dad, I said gently, did you know it removed my name completely? His mouth opened, closed. I didn't mean, he started, then looked down at his hands. I just signed where she pointed. I left the room before Sandra could spin her web around him again. I didn't slam the door, didn't cry, but as I passed Emily, I paused. You both made one mistake, I said quietly. Emily raised an eyebrow. Only one? You assumed I wouldn't come back. Back in the car, I handed Jonah the audio recording. You got it? Every word, I nodded. He didn't know. Jonah exhaled. Then it's time. Time for what? For them to see what it feels like to be invisible and watched at the same time. You don't win these kinds of battles by yelling. You win them by building, by documenting, by waiting for the exact moment the paper trail intersects with the truth. And then, you bring the whole damn thing to light. Ever sign something just to keep the peace, only to learn later it cost you more than you realized? The house didn't burn down. The floor didn't open up when I told Dad he'd unknowingly signed me out of his life. No drama, no gasps, just a quiet room, and a man who suddenly looked a decade older. And that somehow was worse. Because silence isn't neutral. Sometimes it's just cowardice dressed as peace. 2 days later, Sandra sent me a text. Let's not make this ugly, Rowan. You always had a flair for dramatics. I stared at it for a full minute before deleting it. It didn't deserve a reply. Jonah was already pulling records. Emails, timestamps, financial authorizations. We were building something slow and deliberate. A truth you couldn't scroll past. One that held. "You need a witness," he said one night as we pieced through emails Dad had forwarded me, unaware half of them were blind copied to Sandra. Someone from the inside who saw them manipulate him. I thought for a second. Then I reached for my phone and texted a name I hadn't said out loud in years. Mara Langford. We met at a diner off the highway, the kind with peeling booths and coffee that tasted like the 90s never ended. Mara looked nervous, tired, older than I remembered. "I shouldn't even be here," she said, glancing around. "If Sandra finds out—" "She can't threaten you anymore," I said. "You don't work for them. You don't owe them anything." She stirred her coffee. "I owe you. You were just a kid when all that started. Quiet, respectful. You always offered to help me with the groceries." "And no one ever helped me," I said, not bitter, just stating fact. She looked at me. "You know, I saw your mom's picture in the hallway get taken down. No one said anything. Next time I came, it was like she'd never existed." I nodded. "That's what they do." Mara pulled out a folded envelope and slid it across the table. "I kept this," she whispered, "in case I ever needed to clear my conscience." Inside was a printed email from Sandra. Subject: "She can't prove anything." Body: "Make sure Greg signs everything. Tell him it's for his health coverage if he asks. Don't let Rowan near the safe deposit key. Emily's handling the bank meeting. We've come too far." I looked at Mara, stunned. "You could have just burned this," I said. She smiled faintly. Some things shouldn't disappear so easily. That night, I added the email to the growing file Jonah and I had built, titled "Reclamation" in all caps. He leaned back in his chair, scanning the text. "They really thought they'd get away with it." "They still think they will," I said. "People like that don't worry until it's too late." The next step wasn't legal. It was strategic. We needed to test Dad's clarity, without Sandra breathing down his neck. So I called him, told him I'd scheduled a quick check-in at the doctor, just the two of us. He agreed, sounding hesitant but cooperative. When I picked him up, Sandra gave me a smile like she wanted me to crash the car. "I hope this clears things up for everyone," she said sweetly. I didn't respond. Dr. Kaplan had been Dad's physician for years. Sharp, direct, no patience for fluff. She greeted us with a nod. "Greg, Rowan, glad you came in." We sat through the vitals, the reflex checks, the memory assessments. Then she asked him, "Greg, do you know who has control over your health directives right now?" He blinked. "Sandra, I think." She made a note. "And who do you want to have that control?" A pause. Then he looked at me. "Rowan," he said simply. Dr. Kaplan smiled. "Good," she said, "because that answer tells me more than a test ever could." Outside in the parking lot, Dad sat quietly in the passenger seat. "I didn't know how much I'd lost," he said, voice raspy. "I just went along with things. It was easier." I nodded. "I get it." He looked over at me. "Do you think we can fix this?" "I don't want to fix the past," I said. "I want to protect what's still left." That night, I drafted a letter. To Sandra, to Emily, to their lawyer, attaching scanned evidence, the email from Mara, the original will, the notary discrepancies. I wasn't threatening. I wasn't dramatic, just a calm statement of facts. And one line at the end. "This is me taking my name back. You can hand it over, or we can let a judge decide who it belongs to." Sometimes people don't fall. They slip, little by little, until they don't realize how far they've gone. But that doesn't mean they don't deserve the consequences. Ever trusted someone to manage something for you, only to realize they were quietly writing you out of your own life? The envelope was hand-delivered. No postage, no courier label. Just a clean manila folder slipped under the door of my apartment while I was out grabbing coffee. Jonah held it up when I returned. "You were expecting this?" I took one look at the handwriting and knew. Sandra. Inside were two items. A typed letter, polished, emotionless, signed in that same too-perfect cursive. A check. A check made out to me for exactly the amount I would have inherited under the original will. Jonah read over my shoulder. Wow, that's not shady at all. I kept scanning. The letter read like a PR statement disguised as an apology. Rowan, let's avoid unnecessary tension or public spectacle. You have what you wanted. Let this be the end of it. No admission of guilt, no acknowledgement of what they did, just hush money in envelope form. I folded the check in half and set it aside. This is them offering to pay me off to shut up. Jonah nodded. Classic damage control. She thinks I care about the money, I muttered. She still doesn't get it. Do you want to respond? I looked down at the letter, then back at Jonah. I want to finish this the way they started it. Quiet, calculated, permanent. That night I called Glenn. I need to update my legal response, I told him. Sandra just made me an unofficial offer. Glenn didn't sound surprised. Then it's time we make it official. File to reverse the amendment, open an investigation into coercion, and submit Mara's testimony. And the forged will? He paused. I'm forwarding it to the DA. By the following week, things began to move faster. Sandra's lawyer sent 2 more messages. First, a clarification. Then, a thinly veiled threat about the burden of reputation. Emily, on the other hand, was silent. Too silent. Until I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. Rowan, the voice said. It's me. Emily. I didn't respond. She continued. Look, I don't care about the will. Honestly, I don't. Can we talk? You're talking. She exhaled. You don't understand. I didn't ask to be part of this. I was just doing what Mom told me. I thought, she paused. I thought you'd never come back. And that made it okay to erase me? She went quiet. I didn't have a choice, she said finally. You had dozens. You just chose the one that hurt me the most. I ended the call before she could respond. Sometimes the hardest thing isn't standing up for yourself. It's realizing the people who hurt you weren't confused. They were comfortable. Dad called me the next day, alone, no Sandra hovering. I read the letter you sent, he said, about the forged signatures, the bank meetings, the will. I didn't speak. He continued, I'm not proud of what I let happen, but I'm ready to make it right. Then let's do it legally, I said. No more quiet approvals. No more signing things in the kitchen because someone hands you a pen. He sighed. I never wanted it to get this far. That's the thing, Dad, I said gently. It didn't get this far because of what you did. It got here because of what you didn't. We filed the motion a week later. Sandra's assets froze the following morning. The court ordered a temporary pause on any trust withdrawals. A forensic handwriting analyst confirmed discrepancies between Greg's official signature and the one on the amended will. And Emily? She was served notice to appear as a material witness. I didn't feel victorious. I felt real. Like for the first time in years, my name wasn't just something they tolerated on a family document. It meant something. Jonah and I stood outside the courthouse after filing the motion. He looked at me. You okay? I nodded. I'm not trying to destroy them. I just want to stop pretending they didn't destroy me. He was quiet for a beat. That might be the strongest thing you've said this whole time. Not every war ends with fireworks. Some just end with a signature and a silence that finally makes sense. It was a Monday. Not the kind of Monday that drags its feet, but the kind that feels like it's been holding its breath for years. Jonah adjusted the stack of files on his lap. Glenn sat 2 chairs away, flipping through notes. I sat in the middle, palms resting on my knees, listening to the tick of the courthouse clock. Across from me, Sandra, lips tight, hair perfect. Next to her, Emily, a shell of the girl who used to smile while I was erased. And beside them, their attorney, leafing through pages with all the charm of a vending machine. The judge entered, and the room stood still. The first hour was procedural. Then came the evidence. Glenn presented the original will, the altered version, the forensic analysis showing the signature discrepancies. Then he played the clip, the one from Mara's envelope. Sandra's voice, smooth and rehearsed, saying, "Make sure Greg signs everything. Tell him it's for health coverage. Don't let Rowan near the deposit key." Her attorney objected to its admissibility. The judge overruled. Sandra shifted in her seat. Emily looked like she wanted to vanish. Next came Mara herself. She stepped into the room, clutching her purse with both hands like it anchored her. "I was the housekeeper," she said. "I saw who ran the house, and it wasn't Greg. He was sidelined." "Did you witness coercion?" Mara nodded. "Every time Greg asked questions, Sandra redirected. I heard her call his stroke convenient, like it made everything easier." Then it was my father's turn. He walked in with a cane but stood straighter than I'd seen in years. The judge asked him a simple question. "Mr. Mason, do you understand the nature of these amendments to your estate?" He paused. Then, with clear eyes, said, "No, I trusted the wrong people, but I see it now." He turned and looked at me. "Not Sandra. Rowan, I'm sorry." I didn't cry, but something in my chest cracked just a little. The verdict didn't take long. The amended will was nullified. Sandra and Emily were removed from any financial authority. An investigation into fraud and undue influence was opened. The judge didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His final words were enough. This wasn't just manipulation of documents. It was manipulation of trust. That has a weight the law does not ignore. Outside, Sandra didn't speak to me, but she looked, in a way she hadn't since the day she smiled while I was being exiled. And Emily? She came up to me slowly, her voice small. "I didn't know it would go this far." I met her eyes. "You didn't think it would touch you." "I'm not like her." "Maybe not," I said. "But you let her use your silence." She blinked. "What now?" I stepped back. "Now you live with it." Weeks passed. I didn't move back into the house, didn't want to. Instead, I walked past it one afternoon. The hummingbird feeder was gone. The blinds were shut. A "for sale" sign leaned slightly to one side. I kept walking. Jonah and I met for coffee 2 blocks from my new apartment. "So that's it?" he asked. "No press? No interview? No viral monologue?" I smiled. "Not everything needs to be loud to be powerful." He nodded. "So what's next?" "I take a breath," I said. "Maybe paint my new walls. Maybe find a frame for that photo I finally put back together." He laughed. "The one with your mom?" "And me," I said. "Still in the frame, right where I belong." Because in the end, I didn't win by yelling. I didn't win by begging to be seen. I won by standing where they tried to erase me and refusing to move. And somehow that was enough. They tried to erase me quietly, but I reclaimed everything in silence just as loud. What I've learned is this: family isn't about blood. It's about boundaries. Trust is earned, not inherited. And sometimes, the people who break you aren't strangers. They're the ones who taught you how to love. But healing doesn't mean you go back to the version of yourself they remember. It means you become the version they never saw coming. So tell me, have you ever had to reclaim your worth from the people who should have protected it? What would you have done in my shoes? If this story reached something in you, if you felt seen, hurt, or healed by it, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Or if it didn't land for you, tell me why. Let's talk. Let's connect. And if you want more true stories like this, stories that sting, lift, and stay with you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you here next time.